Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a recommendation coming from a U.S. government agency, right,
Uh-huh.
to the president, suggesting they actively try to interfere with someone at a major international security meeting.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like the setup for a spy thriller, doesn't it?
it really does. And what's particularly, well, noteworthy here is that our source material points to this exact scenario happening.
Right.
Back in July 2020, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF,
USCRF.
they recommended that the U.S. government should hinder the work of FECRIS at an OSCE meeting.
The OSCE, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe.
That's the one.
Yeah.
A key international body, focused on security, human rights,
Yeah.
makes a recommendation like this from a U.S. agency quite, well, significant.
Absolutely. And FECRIS, for those who might not know, is the European Federation of Centers of Research and Information on Sectarianism.
Exactly.
And the person representing FECRIS there at that OSCE meeting,
Mm-hmm.
talking about abuses in totalitarian cults,
Yep.
was the author whose personal experiences really formed the basis of our deep dive today,
Luigi.
Corvaglia.
Precisely. And this deep dive, well, it explores the surprising web of connections, relationships, all detailed in Luigi Corvaglia's own account.
Right.
It's all about the geopolitics of cults and religious freedom advocacy. We're drawing straight from his writing. It's a first-hand perspective.
So, listener, our mission today really is to understand the key players and maybe their less obvious agendas within this whole world of religious freedom discussions.
Mhm.
It can be complex.
Very.
We're going to follow Luigi Corvaglia's personal journey, starting with him being mentioned in a U.S. government report.
Yeah, that's the trigger.
And it leads us through uncovering this, well, pretty intricate network of people and organizations.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Go on.
This USCIRF recommendation, to obstruct Luigi Corvaglia's work at the OSCE in 2020, that became the starting point, the opening for his 2022 dossier,
Well,
the one examining the geopolitics of cults. It was later published in English, French, Dutch, the English version in 2023.
so it immediately makes you ask, right?
Mm.
Are the actors in this religious freedom space always operating transparently?
That's the core question.
Why would a U.S. government agency single out this individual, Luigi Corvaglia and FECRIS?
It does seem, well, unusual on the face of it.
Yeah.
And then following this,
Yeah.
the European Federation for Freedom of Belief, or FOB,
FOB, okay.
they publicly state their mission is promoting and protecting religious freedom. But they proposed that Italy should be designated as a country at risk for religious freedom.
Okay. Why?
The reason they gave: the presence of Luigi Corvaglia.
Wait, so an organization supposedly defending religious freedom says someone speaking out against cult abuses is a threat to religious freedom?
Exactly. It suggests a, let's say, unconventional view of what religious freedom means.
That's perplexing. And it gets even more so, doesn't it?
It does. The president of FOB, Alessandro Amicarelli,
Right, Amicarelli.
he then publicly accused Luigi Corvaglia on Facebook, and not just of anything minor,
Yeah.
of conspiring with the Chinese communist regime. And even, get this, involvement in forced organ harvesting from dissidents.
Wow. Okay, that's
Oh.
incredibly serious. Horrific, even.
Extremely serious accusations.
So it makes you wonder, who is Alessandro Amicarelli? And what could possibly motivate statements like that?
Well, according to Luigi Corvaglia's account, Amicarelli is a London-based lawyer, describes himself various ways: lawyer, teacher, philanthropist, and also founder and president of the Embassy of Love International.
Embassy of Love International.
Okay. Now, if you look at the UK company's register, his correspondence address is listed as 78 York Street, London.
Okay.
What's kind of fascinating is the same address seems to be the registered office for Billy the Duck Ltd.
Billy the Duck Ltd.
Yeah, a video production company, apparently one employee. And this small office space seems to house like a dozen other companies.
But no law firm listed there.
No law firm mentioned at that address, which seems a bit unusual for a practicing lawyer's correspondence address,
It certainly does. And what about this Embassy of Love Ltd? You mentioned that too.
Right, that one's registered in Cardiff, Wales,
Right.
but its legal headquarters, Regent Street, London.
Regent Street. That sounds prestigious.
It does. Very upmarket address. However, further digging apparently reveals that this particular building, well, it's known for providing virtual addresses
Ritual addresses.
used by literally thousands of companies. And some, it seems, have a history of investment fraud. It's even been called a paradise for fraudsters.
Okay, so a prestigious address, but potentially just a mail drop used by some questionable entities. That definitely raises questions about the the credibility of Embassy of Love Ltd.
It does indeed. And then just to add another layer, there's also an Embassy of Love International Ministries,
Another one.
registered in Washington State, over in the U.S.
And do we know what these Embassy of Love groups actually do?
That's the thing. Their specific activities, their purpose, it remains pretty unclear from the available information.
So, lots of entities, virtual addresses. How do we get a clearer picture of Emicarelli's connections?
Well, public databases can sometimes help. The European company search engine, North Data, it provides some pretty interesting links for Alessandro Emicarelli.
Like what?
Well, North Data connects Emicarelli to several other outfits. One is Romanation Embassy.
Romanation Embassy? Let me guess, Regent Street.
You got it. Same virtual address. And its listed activities, also unknown.
What else?
He's also connected to Obaseki & Co. Ltd. That's identified as the law firm where he actually practices. It's located in a, let's say, less fashionable part of London.
Okay, so a real law firm address, too.
Yes. But here's where another really significant piece seems to fall into place.
Yeah.
North Data also shows a direct connection between Emicarelli and the All Faiths Network in the UK.
The All Faiths Network. Why is that significant?
Because, according to Luigi Corvaglia's account, the All Faiths Network is one of several organizations identified as having links to the Church of Scientology.
Ah, Scientology. Okay, that's a major connection then.
It's crucial. I mean, understanding this direct link between Emicarelli and an organization tied to Scientology. The director of All Faiths Network is a man named William Martin Waitman.
Okay.
He's directly linked to Emicarelli via North Data. And Waitman is, very publicly, a member and a former human rights director of the Church of Scientology.
Wow. A former human rights director for Scientology running the All Faiths Network.
And the connections don't stop there. Emicarelli, this Waitman, and a Scientology rabbi actually co-authored a book together on COVID-19.
Really? Published by?
Published by the All Faiths Network.
Okay.
And we even have visual evidence. There's a photo, apparently, of Emicarelli speaking at an All Faiths Network event with a big portrait of Scientology founder Ron L. Hubbard clearly visible in the background.
So the connection seems pretty explicit.
It definitely reinforces the link, yeah.
And this connects back to FOB, where Emicarelli is president.
It seems to. When you look at the member associations of FOB,
Right.
the groups that make it up, you find groups like the European Interreligious Forum for Religious Freedom and CAPLC. Both have documented links to Scientology.
Okay.
And also Atman Yoga, which is linked to Soteria International and its, well, controversial leader.
So multiple member groups with Scientology ties.
Yes. And, add another layer, Fabrizio D'Agostini. He's a founding member of FOB's scientific committee. He has publicly stated, apparently with satisfaction, that he's reached a high level within Scientology.
A high level in Scientology on the scientific committee of FOB.
Precisely. And then there's just the striking fact that you have 3 individuals named Emicarelli connected to both FOB and Scientology.
3.
Alessandro, the president we've discussed. Fabio Emicarelli, who's described as a longtime spokesperson for Scientology in Italy, and Michele Emicarelli, who's also on FOB's scientific committee.
That does seem like quite a coincidence. 3 Emicarellis, all linked to FOB and Scientology.
It certainly raises questions about potential overlaps in these networks, doesn't it?
It really does. So what does FOB actually do, apart from proposing Italy be put on a watch list because of Luigi Corvaglia?
Well, their website says they promote and protect religious freedom. They're registered as a lobby group in Brussels.
Okay.
But interestingly, back in 2016, when an article highlighted these very connections we're talking about, FOB's immediate reaction was to threaten legal action, defamation, against the journalist and against Luigi Corvaglia.
Did they sue?
Apparently not. The threatened lawsuit never actually happened.
So threats but no follow-through.
Right. And that reaction, combined with the fact that, well, a lot of the articles featured on FOB's own website come from Bitter Winter. That's the magazine run by C.E.S. Nair.
C.E.S. Nair, headed by Massimo Intravine.
That's him. And Massimo Intravine's wife, Rosita Sorte, she also serves on FOB's scientific committee.
Wow. Okay, so it sounds like a very interconnected group. FOB, C.E.S. Nair Winter, the Emicarellis, the Scientology links.
It suggests a close alignment, yeah. And maybe a potential for reinforcing shared viewpoints within this network.
Speaking of Massimo Intravine and CES Nair, this brings us to something else mentioned in the source material. A photograph.
Ah, yes, the Siberia photo. This is quite peculiar. It's from 2017, a conference in Siberia about destructive cults.
Okay.
And the photo shows Luigi Corvaglia alongside a known Russian anti-cult activist and an Orthodox bishop.
Just attending a conference, presumably.
Seems so. But what's noteworthy is how this single image has been used, repeatedly,
Use how?
in attempts to falsely link Luigi Corvaglia, and by extension Fekris, to the Russian regime.
Ah, I see. Guilt by association using a photo.
Exactly. It's been presented as some kind of proof of this link on various websites, the websites that are generally critical of the anti-cult movement.
And this photo popped up elsewhere, too.
Oh, yes. It was even shown in a presentation at a CSUR conference.
Introvene's organization.
Right. It was featured in Bitter Winter, their magazine. And it even appeared in that COVID-19 book we mentioned earlier.
The one co-authored by Amicarelli and the Scientology-linked director of All Faiths Network.
That's the one, published by All Faiths Network.
So the photo gets circulated within this network.
It seems so. And perhaps the most, well, outlandish use was by the European Times.
The European Times. What's that?
It's an online publication, also identified as having clear links to Scientology.
Okay. And what did they do with the photo?
They made this really bizarre claim that the anti-cult movement is somehow responsible for anti-Ukrainian sentiment in Russia.
Wow. That's a stretch.
A huge stretch. And they used this very photograph, the Siberia one, as supposed evidence for that narrative.
So the European Times, is it a credible publication?
Well, that's debatable. The author of many articles, someone named Jan Leonid Bornestein, appears to have basically no online footprint outside this publication, which leads to some speculation about whether he's even a real person.
A potential pseudonym. And the director.
Peter Gramatikov. He claims a position in the Bulgarian Orthodox Church, but apparently his credentials there are questionable.
Right.
But he does seem to have strong connections to Scientology. He's been seen attending their anniversary events, for instance.
Okay, so the publication itself seems closely tied to Scientology.
The connections seem to run quite deep, yes. The European Times is part of something called Brussels Media.
Right.
And its executive director is described as being close to Scientology. Even the contact address listed for the European Times.
Then yes.
It belongs to a Spanish association that's affiliated with Scientology.
It just keeps circling back, doesn't it?
It really does. And again, we have photos, pictures showing key figures from Scientology alongside people from these religious freedom groups we've mentioned.
Like FOB.
FOB, yes. Human Rights Without Frontiers, CAPLC, all appearing together at events seemingly within the European Parliament.
So it looks like collaboration, not just chance encounters.
The visual evidence strongly suggests a level of collaboration, yes. It goes beyond just bumping into each other.
Okay, there was another incident mentioned involving a Ukrainian group called Allatra.
Ah, yes, Allatra, a Ukrainian para-religious cult. They launched a pretty aggressive defamation campaign against Luigi Corvaglia.
Why? What did he do?
He'd publicly described their movement as basically a conspiracy theory and noted it had pro-Putin rhetoric.
Okay, and Allatra didn't like that.
Not at all. But what's particularly telling is how they attacked him.
How?
They used arguments and information that apparently originated in Bitter Winter publications.
Introvene's magazine again.
Yes, which again underscores this interconnectedness, how narratives and information might be shared or recycled within this network.
And what happened with Allatra in Ukraine?
Well, this is significant. The Ukrainian security services actually raided Allatra's headquarters.
They did. Why?
They cited subversive activities for the benefit of the Russian Federation.
Wow. So that seems to kind of back up Luigi Corvaglia's assessment, doesn't it?
It certainly appears to corroborate his concerns about their pro-Russian stance, yeah.
Now, did anyone defend Allatra?
Interestingly, when Allatra's own TV channel wanted to interview an external expert about their supposed persecution, the only one willing to go on camera, apparently, was Fabrizio
D'Agostini. The guy from FOB's scientific committee, the one with high-level Scientology status.
The very same. He was the one interviewed by Allatra TV.
So, someone linked to FOB and Scientology is defending a group raided by Ukraine for pro-Russian activities, a group that attacked Luigi Corvaglia using material from Bitter Winter.
It raises important questions, doesn't it, about consistency, motivations, especially when claims of advocating for religious freedom are involved.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you mentioned photos from OSCE meetings, too.
Yes, finally, those photos from the OSCE human rights meetings, they really offer a kind of visual summary of all these connections.
What do they show?
You see representatives from Scientology, from CE Center Bitter Winter, from Human Rights Without Frontiers, from FOB, from Kimi PLC.
All the groups we've been talking about.
Exactly. Consistently appearing together, it really looks like they're coordinating their presence, their activities.
Coordinated efforts at these high-level meetings.
It seems that way. There's even one specific briefing photo mentioned. It apparently shows high-ranking Church of Scientology members meeting directly with leaders from these religious freedom NGOs.
FOB, HRWF, CIPLC.
Right before a session specifically on religious freedom.
So it's not just appearing together, but seemingly strategizing together.
The visual evidence certainly suggests a significant level of coordinated effort, shared objectives, operating together at an international level.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together then. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into Luigi Corvaglia's account?
Well, I think the main thing is this really intricate web of connections that's been uncovered, linking organizations that publicly champion religious freedom directly with the Church of Scientology.
Through shared personnel like Amicarelli, DeAgostini.
Exactly. Through shared publications like The Reliance on Better Winter, and through these coordinated appearances at places like the OSCE.
Right. And we've also seen how information like that Siberia photo of Luigi Corvaglia can be sort of weaponized, twisted, and used within these networks, seemingly to discredit critics.
And the personal attacks, too, like those really extreme accusations Amicarelli made against Luigi Corvaglia.
The ones about China and organ harvesting?
Yeah. They add another layer, don't they? They raise serious questions about the motivations behind such aggressive tactics and what kind of religious freedom is actually being advocated for here.
And it's important to remember, this all stems from the first-hand account of Luigi Corvaglia.
Absolutely. His personal journey, from being targeted by that USCIRF recommendation to then uncovering all these interconnected entities. It offers a really unique and, frankly, quite unsettling perspective on the whole landscape of religious freedom advocacy.
So this leads us to a pretty crucial question for you, the listener, to think about. Given everything we've explored here, based on Luigi Corvaglia's account, what level of critical scrutiny should we apply to organizations claiming to champion religious freedom?
That's the key question, isn't it?
How can you discern genuine advocacy from agendas that might be hidden?
Yeah.
Motivations that aren't transparent?
And maybe what does this whole network reveal about, well, the complexities of information warfare today, how narratives are shaped and spread?
It definitely gives you a lot to mull over. We really encourage you to reflect on the implications of these kinds of interconnected entities. And, as always, to approach information, especially on sensitive topics like religious freedom, with a critical eye. Always consider the sources and try to understand the motivations behind what's being presented.